desperately trying to find the
Yeah,
button.
no, that's okay. We're live on YouTube.
Perfect.
There you go, ma'am. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Closer. Good evening, everyone. The time is now 6:57, so we're going to get started in about 3 or 4 minutes. So I'd encourage everybody to grab a coffee, some refreshments, and take a seat, and we'll get started shortly. You can't hear me. Okay. Sound better? Okay. That work? There we go. Okay, good evening, everybody. We're looking to get started. If I could just ask everybody to take their seats. Okay, thank you everyone for coming here this evening. My name is Cassandra Brownridge. I'm the Manager of Strategic Initiatives at the Town of Ajax, and I am going to be your moderator tonight as well as providing a presentation on the town's behalf. I want to start this meeting. Sorry, let me just... I'd like to start this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. So providing just a little bit of information on how this evening is going to be structured. I have an agenda here that's shared, so we'll start with some introductions. We will go into a short presentation by the town, which will be followed by a presentation by the Region of Durham, Social Services, on some statistics. And then the Durham Regional Police will also provide a short presentation. We will head into questions and answers, and we will close with some guest speakers that we have who have agreed to join us this evening. So to introduce the panel kind of to my left here, as I've introduced myself already, I've introduced, this is Kyle Campbell. Kyle is our manager of bylaw services at the town. We have Robin Williams, our corporate security specialist, Tim Field, our manager of environmental services. We have Superintendent Stephanie Finateri from West Division. We have Inspector David Palmer. We have Sergeant Jesse Halleck, also from DRPS. We have Jocelyn Siciliano, who's the manager of area manager for homelessness and anti-human trafficking. We have Daniel from supervisor of the regional outreach team, and we have Sahar Fortani, the manager of income, employment, and homeless support. I'd also like to introduce our two guest speakers, one of whom is Adam Smith, and the other is Daniel Cullen. So the purpose of today's town hall is to deliver information on how the 3 on-the-ground agencies, so those being the Town of Ajax, the Region of Durham, and Durham Regional Police Services, respond to the homelessness crisis in Ajax. We will be providing responses to residents through a respectful question and answer period, and we will look to hear from individuals with lived experiences to help ground and conclude our discussion today. So the reason we're here today is Ajax Council at a September meeting of council directed staff to organize a community town hall with the relevant people or staff here from the Region of Durham and Durham Regional Police Services, which is what we're here to do today. I'd also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the members of Ajax Council that are here in attendance. The mayor has sent his regrets as he accepted a speaking opportunity prior to this meeting being scheduled. We also have, looking around, I see Regional Councillor Joanne Dyes, Regional Councillor Marilyn Crawford. I see Local Councillor Rob Tyler Morin, Local Councillor Lisa Bauer, Local Councillor Nancy Henry, I believe I saw walk in. And we also have a couple of members of Ajax staff here as well. So just a quick overview of the roles and responsibilities as it relates to the homelessness issue across Canada. So the federal government, as you can see here, they set the national policy and funding, including capital funding when it comes to building shelters and transitional and supportive housing. They also provide income to supports. The Government of Ontario is the system steward for homelessness. They are the primary funder. They oversee healthcare, including mental health care, and also set provincial policy. The Region of Durham is the system manager and delivery authority for housing and homelessness. They have the responsibility for the downloaded social services portfolios, and they also oversee public health and policing. Durham Regional Police Services, their role is in community safety and law enforcement, and the town's role in managing the crisis is enforcing our bylaws in public spaces, advocating and facilitating community support partnerships, and also land use planning and zoning. So what the next portion of this presentation will be is a listing of town initiatives that have happened over the last, I would say, about approximately 5 years, just to share with the community some of the initiatives that have taken place. So the first one being, So the first one being after, at the beginning of COVID, when it became very evident that homelessness was going to be a growing challenge in Ajax, Ajax was one of the first and remains the only lower tier municipality that has provided a permanent permanent space for emergency shelter in the region. And that building is at 27 Station Street. That's the sales pavilion that's at Harwood and Achilles. And in there's a 30-bed co-ed space that is also pet friendly. During the COVID period, the town initiated a number of community supports. Number one is that we invested in a designated community supports coordinator, and that individual is responsible for the town's overall response and support for the community, including community safety, well-being, homelessness, and other community-related issues. The town launched the Ajax Locker program in partnership with the Ajax Mayor's Gala and the Salvation Army. We run a daily shower program out of our community centers. The Ajax Partnership Program funds community sport organizations, including local food drives, mental health service providers, and as well as provides some additional security measures for downtown Ajax businesses. The town also paid for and provided equity, diversity, and inclusion training for the Christian Faith Outreach Center staff who operate the shelters in Ajax. We have increased the security presence in the Ajax Plaza, including before 8 a.m., to try to minimize the impact on businesses. And we've also done other initiatives related to mental health, food security, and community well-being. But what I think is important to highlight is the town's response to encampment and debris management. So our process is a flexible, responsive, and compassionate approach that's focused on high-impact encampments that really focuses on where we have safety concerns. This is something that is complaint-driven, and it's something that requires multiple members of the town's team, as well as throughout the region, including DRPS and the region, social services and outreach teams, to respond to encampments. This work on a daily basis involves scopes, cleanups, and that increases in volume in the spring and summer. The costs to the town for this are approximately, we estimate, around $250,000 a year, and we do receive about 50% of those costs recovered from the region of Durham. Since 2023, I believe, the town has been in partnership with Durham Regional Police Services through the support of a provincial grant, where we have installed 9 CCTV cameras along the Commercial Avenue corridor from Station Street all the way down to Bailey. And that's been done in partnership with DRPS, but also as direct feedback from the residents in the downtown area, particularly that live just off of Commercial Avenue. In the fall 2025, an unprecedented regional encampment was established at Achilles Road and Harwood Avenue, and it was the first of its kind in the region. This is something where facilities like sanitary facilities, security, policing, functioned as a managed encampment. This is something that the town did not enforce, and this was on direction of the mayor. The town did not enforce its bylaws related to zoning or anything like that, or its encampment management protocol on the site, as we worked with the region to try and find a solution for the individuals on the site. There were, at most, up to 25 individuals at one time, but when the site closed, many individuals over the course of those weeks, through the work of social services, either found housing, more permanent or transitional housing, or were able to move into winter warming. During this time, and in an attempt to solve this issue, the region of Durham initiated some negotiations with a landowner at 140 Commercial Avenue. The purpose of that was to consolidate their social services and hub services for the homeless population under one roof in a more suitable facility. The Ajax Council, in response to this, approved a temporary zoning bylaw that would permit that facility to have happened. We also committed at that time to have expedited approvals for fire prevention and building code so that we could ensure that this project happened as quickly as possible. The property owner ultimately, following the public negotiations around the temporary zoning bylaw, the property owner ultimately did not approve the terms of the lease with the region, and the project was not realized. Which brings us to something a little bit more recent. So in January of 2025, the town approved the operations of a winter warming center out of Ajax Town Hall. So those that have been to Town Hall, it's just outside of the Ajax Council chambers. We provide, while it was initially temporary, the center is now in place and confirmed until March 15th of this year. There are cots that have been provided, and up to between 20 and 25 folks spend the night each night. And because they have cots, we've reported better outcomes for the individuals that live there because they're able to sleep. The hours of operation are currently from 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. Monday to Friday, and from 7 p.m. till 9 a.m. on the weekends. And so the town, I will just reiterate, is the only lower tier municipality in Durham that has offered their town hall as a warming center, outside of the region of Durham, who has offered their headquarters as a warming center as well. So our last sort of key component that I wanted to highlight for everybody tonight is that in November 2025, Ajax Council passed a crisis care facility licensing bylaw. So the purpose of this bylaw is to regulate shelters or social service agencies that operate in the town. And it's not intended to limit access. It's not intended to stop folks from accessing the services that they need. But the intention intention is to create safer environments for the patrons that use the shelters. It's to mitigate the impacts on the neighbors, whether that's a surrounding neighborhood or a business owner. And it's to increase accountability for the operators and their funders, including up to license revocation should operators not be in a position to work with the town and work in good faith to ensure that they're being good neighbors and that folks are kept safe in their space. So with that, I'd like to hand it now over to DRPS to provide some their presentation before we move on to the next phase with the question and answer.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Superintendent Stephanie Finateri. I am the unit commander at West Division here in, you can't hear me? Can you hear me now? Excellent. My name is Stephanie Finateri. I'm the superintendent at West Division in Pickering and Ajax. I'm here joined with me today by Inspector David Palmer and Sergeant Jesse Halleck. And together we work closely to address local safety concerns and listen to community feedback, as well as strengthen trust through open dialogue and collaboration. We appreciate this opportunity to have us here this evening, and we're looking forward to engaging with you further. So this brief presentation will provide a high-level overview of our response of incidents within 500 meters of the Ajax hub. Additionally, details will be provided concerning hub-specific and division-wide initiatives that support some of our most vulnerable community members. Finally, I will conclude by noting ways the community can help to support each other and those within the community who are struggling and vulnerable. Within a 500-meter radius of the Ajax hub, we responded to a variety of call types, primarily cell abandon calls, unwanted persons, check on the well-beings, and traffic stops. These comprised of 26, 17, 6, and 4% respectively of total calls for service to the area around the Ajax hub. These are all calls within the defined radius and cannot be attributed solely to the unsheltered community. Reported incidents that were flagged specifically as being unsheltered related decreased by 15% during 2025 when compared to 2024. Thank you. Calls that were more proactive and community-focused in nature include compliance checks, check on the well-being, and traffic stops. These comprised of 20% of calls within the defined radius. 51% of calls would be classified as non-criminal in nature. Did that turn the slide? That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. So examples of the non-criminal nature calls would include cell abandon calls, 911 unknown calls, check on the well-being calls, and assist ambulance calls. So of note, within 500 meters of in the radius, that doubled from 2024 to 2025. So just some information on how you as the community can review some crime trends on your own time. We do have quite an in-depth interactive crime trend dashboard on our website. So that displays the monthly data on calls for service, violent crime, property crime, and traffic-related incidents, including high-level trends and map-based visualizations. And the dashboard can be filtered to view municipal specific data. So the following are some proactive initiatives the West Division has took part in. These focused on community safety and meaningful public interaction in support for our vulnerable members of our community. These efforts include both location-specific initiatives as well as division-wide strategies. Project Asset, which stands for Ajax Safe Streets Enforcement Team, was introduced to provide a consistent, visible foot and bike patrol presence in the Ajax sub-area that is grounded in engagement, relationship building, and community safety. The focus is on building trust and public safety for everyone and working collaboratively with outreach partners and social service agencies to help connect individuals to appropriate supports where possible. So enforcement is not the primary objective of that initiative. The priority is respectful engagement, de-escalation, and connecting people with help while addressing community concerns. So we also take part in an initiative that is Breakfast at the Hub. So that provides an opportunity for officers to connect with members of the unsheltered community in a relaxed, informal, and respectful setting. This initiative is centered on building trust and fostering positive relationships through meaningful conversation and presence, rather than enforcement again. One of our division-wide initiatives is our Community Safety Advisory Council. So that brings together diverse community voices to provide informed advice and perspectives to the West Division leadership on matters impacting community safety and well-being. So that council is comprised of community members such as yourselves from each ward across Ajax and Pickering.
Can you speak up, please?
Louder? Okay. Project BEAR, can you hear me? Project BEAR? Okay. That stands for Bail Enforcement and Response. So that focuses on monitoring and addressing bail compliance for individuals charged with violent offenses, with the goal of reducing reoffending and enhancing overall community safety. So in terms of community helping community, there are several pathways for you all to get involved. So we often get questions when somebody should call the police and what they should call the police for. So I'm just going to go over some different ways you can report crime. So obviously, in the event of an emergency, dial 911. If it is a non-emergency or something you would consider a non-emergency, we do have channels for driving complaints and community concerns for that. Those include online reporting, which is right on our DRPS website, as well as the non-emergency line. You can also attend in person at any DRPS police station to report. Again, that's for non-emergency incidents. Where people need advice on connecting to services such as housing, mental health, and social supports, you just have to dial 211 and they will direct your call appropriately. So we do have some community safety tools that I just want to make you all aware about. Most recently, we do have our confidential CamSafe camera registry, as well as the vulnerable person and autism registry. So with CamSafe, it's a voluntary registry of private security cameras used to support police investigations. The system is secure. Only DRPS officers have access to the registry. Live camera feeds are not accessible, and registrants can update and remove information at any time. The Autism Registry allows guardians to share information with the police on the best ways of communicating and interacting with autistic individuals. And lastly, the Vulnerable Persons Registry provides details to officers that can be used to assist and coordinate search efforts. And that will conclude our presentation from DRPS. Thank you for taking the time to be with us this evening, and we look forward to engaging with you further.
Perfect. So now I'll ask the region to come up and give their portion of the presentation. I do just want to let everybody know that the slides discussed tonight will be posted on the town's website for ease of access. And if anybody, this is as loud as the mic goes, if there is anybody that's having trouble hearing, the front row is wide open, and folks are, of course, welcome to come and sit a little closer to us.
Excuse me, before you start, this room is notorious for not being heard. So if you can make sure that everyone who is using the microphone makes it really clear for us, remembering that 90% of the people in here are over 50. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me? Perfect. I usually get yelled at for screaming too loud, so this is a really good setting for me. Very nice to meet you all. My name is Sahar Fortani, and I am with the region with the homelessness team. I'm here with Jocelyn Siciliano, and we are here to give you some stats on homelessness in Durham region. So as the service system manager, what the region is responsible for is planning, funding, coordinating, and having oversee the homelessness system and ensuring accountability and effective service delivery within each community. What we are not is police or emergency services or doctors. We worked in partnership with our supports around the table to provide the service that's needed within each community. One of the most important things that we have oversight on is our data. So data is really what drives the funding and allows us to advocate for what is needed in each community. So what the region oversees is something called the by name list. If you're not familiar with the by name list is a list of individuals who have identified themselves as being homeless and have given consent to be part of our coordinated access and have support, which we like to kind of refer to as a continuum of care in Durham region. And as of January 2026, this is going to be published on our site later this week, so this is fresh off the press for everyone tonight. Our list has gone up to 1,665 individuals. And you can see the breakdown in terms of how that breaks down within each municipality. Of those, 103 are considered to be chronically homeless. Oh, sorry, 1,000. 1,003 are considered to be chronically homeless. And what that means is that those individuals have been on the streets for longer than 6 months. And as we know, the longer that number increases, there's more challenges that comes with that. So of those, 93% are considered to be mid to very high acuity. And what that means is there might be challenges as physical, mental health, a number of barriers that's preventing them to be able to move forward. One thing that I do like to highlight is that although that number continues to grow, it also means that we are able to connect with more individuals on the street. And what that means is then we can really look at what the needs are of those individuals in each of the communities. And that really helps with us when it comes to program enhancements, because then we can really target what that need is. I'd also like to bring your attention to the number of individuals that have come and gone through our system in terms of them being housed in 2025. So we had 516 individuals that went through our system that were able to find long-term and sustainable housing. So that averages out roughly to about 43 each month. And in January, we had 60 people. So this is as of this year. We had 60 individuals that were able to move through the system and become housed. And about 52 that we may have kind of lost contact with, or they just ended up securing housing potentially on their own, or they moved out of the region. I wanted to break it down a little bit more so that it speaks to your community that we're here today. So as part of the oversight when it comes to our data, we're always making changes to better capture the information. So one of the changes that we made was really focusing on when we say housing in particular, how does that look in your area? So I can say in November 2025, we had 11. In December, we had 7. And as of January 31st, we had 13 individuals be housed. So when you look at the number of your community in terms of the by name list, we are at about 330 for Ajax. And of those, 227 are considered to be chronically homeless. And I kind of did a little bit more digging and in terms of what that kind of looks like. So of the 330, about 149 have identified to being on the street in encampments. And the rest...
What do you mean, sorry to interrupt you, what do you mean homeless?
Sorry, sir. There will be time for questions once all the presentations are complete.
All right. That's fine.
We can definitely answer that question for you. And of those... And of those, 149 are considered to be currently on the streets. And I'm just kind of broke down the demographics for you as well, and I know that this will be shared after so you guys can have a closer look if you'd like. I also wanted to give a big shout out to the team here in Ajax. I know that we talked about winter warming and it all came around really, really quickly, and we've then partnered with CFOC to ensure that we are able to support the community with 20 cots each night. And we also have the hub that's also open 24/7 to allow people to come indoors. Just to kind of give you a little bit of understanding of in terms of donation, so we get a lot of questions asked as to what can we do to support and what can we do to help. Oftentimes there's food provided or sandwiches, but we work very closely with the GAP community, which I see here, hello, and these are some of the lists that have been provided in terms of what truly the individuals that are needing these supplies are kind of looking for. So this list is also on our website, and if there are donations that are coming in, please feel free to reach out to us and we can let you know kind of how to redirect that donation if possible. I was also asked to share some stats regarding 27 Station as well as Doors of Compassion. Really here, the important things I guess you could kind of highlight is that in 2025, we had 124 unique individuals go through 27 Station Street, as well as 60 unique individuals that went through Doors of Compassion. So I will pass it on to Jocelyn, who will provide a little bit of information regarding outreach.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. My role with Durham Region Social Services in homelessness is the direct delivery side of things. So the teams that I have are the ones that are out there, boots to the ground, interacting with folks and trying to move them along the continuum that Sahar touched on. So I'll just go into a little bit more detail on that. The very first part of the continuum would be where the engagement needs to occur, and that would be our street outreach team, which I'm sure some of you have seen around the area. They have vehicles that are marked, they have uniforms that are easy to identify. So whether they are going out into encampments, into downtown areas, or places where they know homeless folks congregate, to interact with them and try and build some trust and rapport, let them know what services are out there, and help them get connected. But one big piece of it is what Sahar referred to already, having people understand what the by name list is and how being on it can open you up to other opportunities. So with the street outreach team, they are all access points for getting someone onto the by name list. And they are working across Durham Region 24/7, 365 days a year. So that's part of why you saw the numbers increase of people on the by name list. And like Sahar said, that's a good thing because that means we're connecting with these folks, talking to them about what the by name list is and how they can get supported if they are on it. So the next stage of the continuum would be that housing first piece or the intensive case management. So someone can get pulled from the by name list and assigned to a worker who's going to do those pieces with them. So get them ready for housing. Make sure that they have all the income they're entitled to receive. Perhaps they have ID, a bank account, and then book appointments with landlords and actually go with them to view apartments or rooms or figure out what type of housing works for them. It might be just even getting into a shelter bed is a big step for some people, and having the outreach team go there with them or to a hub, meeting them there, introducing them, doing that warm handoff, it's so important. And it can get them to that next step where they have that intensive case manager to work with them. And a lot of people think that things end at that point. But this is when the hard work really begins, is when somebody moves into a transitional housing unit or even like attempts to stay at winter warming for a whole night. Someone who's lived outdoors for a long period of time, whether they're in an encampment or they're just with their community out on the street, it's really tough to go into four walls and be in a room. A lot of them don't feel they deserve that. Even needing help with being a good tenant, being a good neighbor, knowing about paying bills on time and taking out garbage and all those pieces. They might need support with that and need help to get things set up so that it goes smoothly. So with outreach, just the types of things that they do at that first stage, obviously some water and food. Sometimes they have Gatorade. We have people in the street with significant health issues and they might need something to eat or drink due to health condition, helping with that identification and documentation, getting them onto a social assistance if they're not on Ontario Works yet, or maybe they are, but they really need help to get onto ODSP. So doing those pieces to make sure that they have the income they need to be able to secure housing. Doing wellness checks, ongoing engagement. Some people are very open to the support, so outreach might approach someone and they're happy to have that conversation and to get guidance. Other people, it takes a little longer to build that trust, and so outreach asks if it's okay if they just check in with them every time they see them. And if they say yes, they continue, and it might take months before somebody's open to getting onto that by name list or accepting help. Providing necessary items for when you are, living outdoors and really living rough. Harm reduction education, referrals to shelters, transportation. So if you've got, especially during winter warming, and outreach is so important at night during winter warming because they may come across someone who really needs to be indoors. We find out there's kind of a coordinated system where we know where there's an empty bed and we help get them there. Referrals to, obviously, cooling centers in the summer as well, the encampment relocation, so if there is an encampment and it's needing to be shut down by a municipality, helping with that, figuring out where it is they need to go, safety planning, and we work really closely with the mental health outreach team and the primary care outreach team. So some of you may have heard of MHOP and PCOP. The primary care outreach team is a paramedic who does street paramedicine, and there's also counselors that can help with some of the issues that somebody might be facing. So we coordinate with them. If we meet someone who would benefit from the services that they can provide, they're our colleagues. We can call them in. If they meet with someone who maybe needs street outreach, they can reach out to Dan, and he's going to send somebody from the team. So just to touch base on Ajax, and the region. So individual engagements region-wide for January 2026 is 2,520. Individual engagements in Ajax is 422. We had no encampment engagements in January, and that would be because winter warming exists from Pickering all the way to Bowmanville and also in the north, so we've got spaces that we can help people get to. Business engagement, Outreach does a lot of visits to businesses to chat about what's going on, handing out our information on how to make contact. So 47 times they've interacted with businesses. They do a lot of proactive checks. So if they notice somebody, they'll stop. But we also do get referrals through Homeless Help and through lots of other means as well, community members. So proactive checks, sorry, that says Whitby, it should be Ajax, resulting in engagement 185. And community education and street safety, there were 2 of those that took place in January. So I just touched really briefly on Homeless Help, but that is the way that someone can reach out if they are wanting support for someone, if you see someone in the community that is needing assistance. But what's really important to remember is that if it is a police issue, like if someone's truly in danger, then it would be 911 or perhaps the non-emergency line. Or maybe you need an ambulance, right? Outreach can come and respond, but we don't have lights and sirens, and we are not, able to come as quickly, certainly, as emergency personnel. But we work closely with them. So this would be the way that you could reach out, and we would make connection and see what the person needs and try to help them move forward. And there's our information if you would like it.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you to all of our presenters this evening. We now will take some questions from the audience. My colleague here will go row by row. This is Christy. She's our Director of Public and Strategic Affairs. She's going to go row by row. When Christy... They're in the front.
So I'm going to start in the front. I'm going to go all the way down. Unfortunately, as you can see, we're limited to 1 mic tonight, so we're going to try our best. And if you're not loud enough...
Sorry, sir.
Okay, thank you. You will have an opportunity to ask 1 question, and then we'll come back. And I will cut you off, so you have about 30 seconds to ask your question. Just so that we can get through the panel, and we have 2 great speakers that I want everyone to hear from. So go ahead, start your question. If you're not loud enough, I can repeat the question. But go ahead. Stand up, please, when you ask the question.
City of Toronto tracks and counts the number of homeless people who die in the shelters and reports it publicly. 2024, 111, I think it was. 2025, 130. Where on the website of the Region of Durham can taxpayers read about the people who are dying in the shelters, the numbers, the trends, and maybe have a memorial for them? I think that for all the statistics you put up here, there is probably none more important than the number of deceased.
So that's a question for the region. Do we post? You're going to have to come up to the mic so that so people can hear. Sahar, can you come to the mic?
Perfect. For the live viewers, the question was, does the region post the number of deaths in the shelter system?
Where on the website can we find them?
So this is something that we have been working on, but we have to work very closely with the healthcare system because it's difficult to identify when an individual passes. But we do honor those that have passed. We actually had a vigil that we hosted last year. Again, that was in partnership with our GAP committee, and this is something that we are also planning for this year as well.
No, you had 1 question.
Can we look forward in the future to these numbers being published, please?
Okay. Do you have a question, sir?
Yes, I do.
Okay, ask your question.
Yes, do the residents of Ajax have a right, taxpayers, to protection of police?
So the question to the live stream was, do residents of Durham Region, are they entitled to protection from the police? And I'll hand it to the superintendent.
Sorry, so you're asking if you have protection from the police?
No, from police.
Yes, so,
From the crime. I tell you why. I just my
Sorry, sir, no fault. If you'd like to speak with the officers after the event has happened, we'll
why
make
I
sure.
want everybody to know because my
Sure, sorry,
my
sir.
bank card got stolen. I have a guy on the video. I reported to the police.
Sorry, sir. I
Guess
really
what?
hate to do this to you. It would be best for the respect of everybody in the room that wants
No,
to talk
I
about
want everybody
homelessness.
to know. I was thrown out. I was thrown out
I
of the
want to
police
know when
station.
police don't do their job.
Sorry.
That's the question. That's
Yeah.
the question.
I'll be happy to speak with you after this is over, and you could let me know your situation, and I'll be happy to guide you in the right direction. Thank you.
I already complained to the Durham Regional Superintendent.
Perfect. Okay, we've got the next, perfect, we got the next question.
Do you guys have any questions? Go ahead, sir. Please stand up.
Evening. So I'm a landlord. I have a couple properties that I work with people that are in recovery and that kind of stuff. I can tell you from my side, the hardest part is the financing, right? So banks don't want to lend to them.
We'll repeat the question for you.
Banks don't want to lend to rooming houses. It's just they don't want to deal with it. So my question is more specifically like, is there an opportunity to partner in terms of co-signing for these properties as we work to add more beds for people?
Perfect. Thank you. So the question for the live stream is, are there opportunities for private entities to partner with governments to find additional space and capacity within the system to support individuals? I would say yes. If you'd like to chat with us afterwards. Particularly, we can start with the town. I'm happy to chat with you, and we'll be able to connect you with the appropriate folks. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Wellness line first. Does anybody here have any questions? No? Okay, go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'd like to just expand on this gentleman's question, because it's very, very valid. I'm a landlord. I run illegal rooming houses in the town of Ajax. And I have housed more people than you have on the street over the last 20 years.
You can do it legally and humanely.
I've had numerous houses, both in Pickering and Ajax, over the last 20 years, and the town of Ajax has put me out of business. And the people that I rent to are all single men. Okay, they make minimum wage at the best of times, and sometimes have 2 or 3 jobs to pay their affordable rent. And I can tell you that in the 20 years that I've had hundreds of renters living in my houses, I have not had any one of them default on paying me the rent. And the reason for that is because it is affordable to them. The town of Ajax has a bylaw, it's number 2013, which happened 13 years ago. Number 115 is called the lodging house bylaw. And I was the only landlord that came to the front and said, this bylaw is gonna cause homelessness. It's gonna cause people to not have places to live where, like I provide. I provide high quality living in places where I've been zoned out of. I've had the bylaws department chase me out, cost me a lot of money in order to maintain what I have. I've only got one left here in Ajax.
Okay,
And
so
when
what's your
that's
question
done-
for, we have the bylaw officer here today, so what's your question for him?
Okay, my question is, do you know why the town of Pickering, or the city of Pickering, has 1/3 the number of homeless than Ajax has?
That's not his question.
For the live stream, the question was related to the number of lodging houses and homes that operate in the town of Ajax. Maybe what I'll do is, appreciating your question, I'm not sure we'll have an answer for that specifically, but maybe our manager of bylaw can provide some information on that bylaw in particular. Okay.
The answer is that the city of Pickering does not have the same kind of anti-housing bylaw that the town of Ajax has.
Okay, so the question is that there's a comparison between you know what the question is?
Yeah. So the question is there's a comparison between the city of Pickering's lodging and group homes bylaw and the town of Ajax. And so the gentleman is indicating that a city of Pickering has fewer homeless individuals as a result of this. So what I'll do is I'll hand it to our manager of bylaw to shed some light.
Thank you for the question. I guess the first thing to recognize is the political landscaping and the housing crisis has evolved over the last 13 years. So we recognize that when the bylaw was first enacted. And the town of Ajax is currently reviewing the lodging house bylaw as well as the town of Ajax's zoning bylaw. And we're looking for ways to add more flexibility to add lodging houses. So to answer your question, and it's a good question, there are opportunities coming to do so.
Thank you.
Anybody here have any questions? Throw here. Okay, go ahead, you can go first and then the gentleman in the hat after, okay? One of you first. Do you wanna go first? Sure. Okay.
I'll repeat the question.
I own a restaurant on Commercial Avenue, and this has been going on for a long time. The restaurant's been in business for 36
instances regarding the homelessness. Just sitting at my front door where customers can't even come in. One person actually overdosed right at the front door where the fire truck and ambulance was called to remove them. I tried to move them for an hour before that, they refused to move. There's the same group of 5 people that comes in there all the time. Then the day after, another guy came. Marilyn is aware of it because I called her. We called the police. He's sitting in the washroom for an hour and a half. Closed everything on the floor, completely naked. Refused to leave the washroom. Took me an hour and a half, hour, 45 minutes to get him out. He goes to the bar, took off his diaper with poop in it, spread it all on top of the bar. All my customers walking around. Refused to leave. Another lady came in. He started harassing her. She called 911. This is about probably an hour and a half after I've already called the police. Nobody showed up on the police side of it. No response was done. And this is continuing all the time. Even just before I came, I was trying to come at 7 o'clock. He's back there again. The same guy all the time. Broke my patio twice already.
Sorry, sir. Can you? Is there appreciating your concept? Yes.
Yep. So you guys mentioned about security and support system for local business in the area. I don't see any of it. I'm tired of my garbage can being broken into, and 2 weeks ago another lady was injecting herself in the washroom with blood everywhere. We gotta clean it up. I gotta go in there, put on gloves and everything and clean up. I don't know what I'm getting into.
Okay, so maybe, thank you for your question. So for everybody that didn't hear it and for the live stream, the question was about challenges that the local business owner is facing in his restaurant near Commercial Avenue, a variety of issues with individuals in his store and when he calls the police. So maybe I'll start with the police to answer the question about response, and then if we can start with that.
First of all, thank you for the question. Whenever it comes to police response, there's so many factors that actually play a role in when we respond and the type of emergency, the number of calls that we have ongoing. So I can definitely sympathize with what you're going through. What I'm going to say to you is that as soon as we're finished here, we have our community resource unit, and part of their mandate is to do community work, building those relationships. So I will have one of my officers come and speak to you directly. Whenever we're dealing with unsheltered persons, vulnerable people in our community, it's a delicate matter for us the minute we show up. So you can understand if and when we show up, how we have to deal with that particular situation. The number of things that you've mentioned there, I can't imagine you have to deal with cleaning up your washroom and having someone with feces across your business. But we are here to support you. So, one, I want to make sure, when you tell me that you called us and you waited an hour and a half, did nobody show up?
Nobody showed up. Even after 911 call, nobody showed up.
Okay.
The officer on the phone took all my information, and she said, does he have a weapon? No. Are you in danger? No. But my customers refuse to leave because imagine anyone of you sitting in a restaurant and you see a diver with poop on a table. You're not going to be there. You just walked out.
Yeah, okay.
But prior to that, again, they're sitting in my front door and refuse to move when I'm asking them to move. And the same guy 2 days in a row, plus he's the one who already broke up my patio twice last year summer, is coming in all the time.
Okay. So, again, this is definitely something that we can assist with. But again, it won't be just us. This is not just a policing matter, right? So I can plainly tell you what the process will be. We'll come out, we'll have a conversation with you. You say you can identify the persons involved. We'll help to see what we can do to connect those people with the resources through our community partners, and we'll try and assist you in the best way we can. So we'll help you moving forward.
I mean, that's all we need because when they first came there, honestly, we were supporting it. We were giving them food and stuff like that before. But now it's just killing the business. Like I said, 37 years of business, but basically I'm almost going bankrupt.
Okay.
That's what that is.
All right. Yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that to our attention. We'll meet. We'll chat after this. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you for sharing the story, and the town would like to be a part of those conversations as well from an economic development and business support perspective.
Okay, so I'll come back up here in just a sec. I recognize you. Just the gentleman in the hat first. Go ahead.
Getting old, kind of hard to stand up these days.
You just have to talk to Cass and she'll repeat.
And then I'll repeat the question. Okay, so for the live stream, the question was really just to share experiences of how the community has changed over a period of time, and how it's so important that the community partners need to work together, as well as the residents and individuals, to try to do what we can to support the problem, but also that there needs to be other parties coming to the table, like the federal and provincial government. And would you say that captures your sentiments? Okay.
Do you have your petition here tonight?
I've got about 20 copies.
Okay, so I'm sure people here would like a copy after, and maybe they'll sign up with your petition as well to make.
So you can read it over, go online, and sign it.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So we'll get
By the way, I
people
have
copies.
1,804 names on it.
Okay. We'll
Excellent.
Continue to grow it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, and then I'll go back to this gentleman here. Go ahead.
Mine is a continuation of this gentleman. I live in an apartment building right near City Hall. And people come, I call them the non-resident residents. They come and they go downstairs. We have an emergency exit in case there's a fire. And it takes you upstairs. They come downstairs and smoke crack, defecate, urinate, leave garbage everywhere. They've slept there. I feel bad for that, but our building has to pay to have all this stuff cleaned up. Who can I talk to on the panel, or get a name and number to call and say, listen, there's people that are coming to my building. How can we help them?
Okay, for the live stream, the question was, the individual lives in an apartment building near Town Hall. In the emergency stairwells, individuals that are unsheltered are in that space doing drugs and defecating, and the landlord and the owner has to, or is responsible for the cleanup. So to answer your question, I would say that if you contact the town through me, we will facilitate a conversation between your landlord and the outreach team, the police as needed, as well as bylaw or our corporate security team. So we can help facilitate a conversation with your landlord.
Yeah,
Okay.
come and see anybody up here afterwards. This gentleman here, go ahead.
First of all, thank you everybody for the support that you provide to the city. I mean, we really need your help because this is a systemic problem. It has many parts. I understand it's the homeless people, it's us as business owners, which I sympathize with because I have the same situation, and it's the residents of the city. So all of us are suffering the problem in one way or another with a different perspective. My concern here as a business owner, I have a business just across the city hall in the plaza where there was a few doors from the fire that happened 2 days ago. And we have a lot of trespassing into our building. It's every single day I have footage on the cameras. My landlord is calling, I'm calling. Yesterday we had the visit of your department, which I really appreciate. It was really quick response. But what happens, this is a question that might have an answer or not, but what happens if I trespass a building? Will you guys arrest me, put me in jail, or press charges against me? And what happens to a homeless that trespasses a building? Why the difference in, I know the answer, I mean, I don't need you guys to give me the answer, but why we treat this in such a different way? Why, I mean, I know there's a human part, but we as business owner, we have this situation where our patrons are just walking away. We cannot grow the business. I mean, Canada needs people working, Canada needs people creating business, creating employment, but we cannot do that because we have all these situations. So my concern here is how can we team up? How can we work together, looking at three main stakeholders of the situation, the residents, the business owners, and the homeless? And what can we do? And why we are giving this so distinct treatment to us as people that have, let's say, no issue, that we're hardworking, we're trying to create or build something, and these people, I respect them and I understand them in a human being and as a Christian, but they're getting all kinds of help. And we as business owners, which are supporting them through our taxes, all this help, we're not getting any help. I don't feel like we're getting help.
Okay, thank you for your question. Cass, can you sum that up?
Yeah, so summary for the live stream is that the individual has a question. He's a business owner in the Ajax Plaza, has experience with individuals that are trespassing into his building. The question really was started with if what happens when somebody trespasses, and is it different for somebody that is unsheltered versus somebody that is not, and what can be done to ensure that the resources and taxes that residents and business owners pay are invested into solving the problem. And I think that's somewhat of a loaded question, but what I can do is maybe I'll let DRPS speak to the trespass specific comment, but the overarching comment back is this is part of what this meeting tonight is about, to ensure that the parties around the table are here, that residents know what our roles are and what we are trying to do, but continuing to work closely with the town to report when these issues happen is really the number one thing, and we will continue to do what we do from an advocacy perspective, whether it's to the province, to the federal government, or for some added support and strategic direction on how we can manage this. But on the trespass question, maybe I'll defer it to DRPS.
Okay, with regards to the trespass, so there is an arrest authority under the Trespass to Property Act that would allow us to come and remove those people, arrest them, remove them. At the end of the day, it's like a traffic ticket, essentially. They'd get a fine. I think we all agree that's probably not what the unsheltered need is, a fine that they're going to be unable to pay. It's basically an authority for us to remove them from the property. So again, I think we got to get to the heart of the matter and kind of deal with it at that level. I mean, if it gets to the point where they're causing damage to the property, when they're breaking and entering, then that's a criminal offense. Again, there's an arrest authority with a criminal charge, but again, it's not going to solve the problem. We can put them on conditions if they are arrested and charged, but there's no guarantee they won't return, right?
So just in the interest of time, because we do have two guest speakers, if there are any business owners here in town that are looking for some guidance or some support, please see myself or Christy after the meeting, because we will take your information and we will help facilitate these conversations directly for you to the best that we can. So I did want to put that offer out to the group.
Is there a statistic on the number of homeless people in Ajax and Durham that are native to Ajax and Durham? And is there any correlation to the services that we're offering here and the numbers of homeless that we're getting?
Thank you. The question for the live stream was, is there, in the statistics that are offered for the individuals that are homeless in Ajax, is there any information about where they are from originally, and is that Ajax, or is it the result of shelter or services being brought to Ajax?
Can I include it in the slide? I don't have the stats with me right now,
Sure.
but I can include it. I can just mention we do collect that information as well. I can include it in the slide when that gets shared out. I just don't have access to it at the moment.
Sorry, Dan. I'm going to tie you up. I'll just say that oftentimes folks who are living unsheltered want to stay in the community that they know. And I know there's a lot of myths out there about busloads of people getting brought in and people moving around. There is some movement with, say, winter warming. If we've got somebody who needs to lay down on a cot and the Bowmanville winter warming has space, outreach would help them get to that winter warming spot. But then in the morning, they go back to their home community because that's where people are comfortable. They know the service is there. That's where maybe their friends are. So we don't actually see as much of the movement as you might think.
So the commitment is to include the stat in the presentation?
Yes.
So I think there were some questions here. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So the gentleman who has the petition, I know the province downloads a lot to the towns, to the municipalities. Is the province here tonight to answer any of the funding questions?
Thank you. The question for the live stream is, as a lot of the discussion tonight is centered on additional funding support, there's been a talk of a petition for added support from the provincial and federal governments. Is anybody from the province here? And I'll answer that question. The town organized this meeting. I would say that the offices were not invited to participate in the panel tonight. So to be fair to them, they were not invited to participate, but I'm sure that a follow-up discussion is something that could happen.
Okay, sir, gentleman in the hat, go ahead.
First off, I'd like to acknowledge the need for homeless shelters in town. But these two gentlemen, they're business owners. I've been a business owner for 50 years in Ajax. So I sympathize with these folks, which also business owners in Ajax. But my question is, and hopefully someone can answer this, why is there a
check.
I have to tell you, they steal, they cause issues. So if we can, as a community, even spread them out, and I think that may help this situation.
So thank you. The question for the live stream was, as a business owner in Ajax, acknowledging the need for shelter services. The question of how they are concentrated in Ajax, you mentioned there are 3. I will confirm there are only 2 shelters in Ajax, but there are winter warming services being operated out of Town Hall right now. But other communities like Whitby have 2, but I think your question was related to the concentration in one kind of area. I think that's a question that we can take away. I'm not sure that has a straightforward answer. A lot of it is to do with available space and where that exists. So I would say, unless the region has another thought on how we're.
And access to services and transportation.
Yes.
And restaurants and like there's the wraparound services, like if you want to go take them in that direction.
Sure, and I would say that right now, the additional services that these individuals rely on, including things like the library, other wraparound supports, other services, are in the downtown core, and so it would be logical that those have additional support services have opened in the area.
Okay, the lady just saw right beside him, you can go ahead, and then I'll come back to you, so, okay?
I'm really grateful for the crisis care that our town provides. I'm just curious if there's any properties that the town owns right now or spaces where they're looking at building supportive, affordable, non-market or rent geared to income rentals for people, because that's really part of the solution, and I just haven't heard any of that yet.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I don't think I need to repeat that for the live stream because they got it. So the answer to that question, and I'll answer on behalf of the town, is that the town is currently we undertook a public land inventory process where we understood where in town we have pieces of land that are owned either by the town, by the region, or other broader public sector agencies. We are actively involved, and I can share that in a short period of time there will be some things to be shared related to additional supportive housing and affordable housing options in Ajax.
Okay, I just get someone from this one, go ahead, go ahead. Yep, go ahead, and I'm gonna go back to the gentleman over there, I promise.
Oh, sure. Hello, my name is Sawa. I'm a business owner in the area. I own an autism therapy clinic. And my question is, I love what the region's doing. I really think it's much needed. My question is for the drop-in centers. Just because I work directly with kids and it's just a safety concern, I have trouble sleeping at night just thinking about these children and their safety. The individuals who access the drop-in centers, do they go through a registration process? Are they in the by name list? Do they have criminal background checks? We recently had a stabbing and a fire, and it's right across the street from me. So I just want to know if there's any kind of background checks on who's coming in and out. That's my only.
Yeah, I'm not sure that everybody heard it, but the question was what information is required for individuals that access the hub or shelter services in the system, and what information they need to provide, whether it's criminal background checks or if they need to be a part of the by name list or anything like that. I'll hand it to.
Do you want it? No, there isn't. There isn't a means test. You don't have to be deserving of shelter space or winter warming bed. So that isn't part of what's done. I mean, I would say that obviously service providers know who they're providing service to, and so they would know if there's someone perhaps who has some sort of barrier or struggles with, I don't know, rules, or they would be aware of that and be able to help work with them. But no, there isn't a means test.
Yeah, but there's security on site.
Yes, there is security on site. All of our shelters, all of the winter warming spaces have security on site. Absolutely, yes, they do.
Okay, so this gentleman here, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to know, with the recent fire that occurred at the plaza, is there any danger to the plaza because of what happened?
Thank you for the question. So to the town, like, the fire happened on February the 2nd. The building has been demolished. I think demolition was completed in the last day or so. At this time, the Ontario Fire Marshal began an investigation, and the cause of the fire was unconfirmed. But as of right now, there is no risk to the remainder of the plaza, and the cause of the fire is currently unconfirmed.
Okay, so go ahead, gentlemen.
I'll preface my question. I took economics 35, 40 years ago. And for the, I'll try, I'm not shouting, but for the lady that's celebrating her 29th birthday, life begins at 60. They'd really call me sister wherever you are. Anyways, throughout time in university, a professor will tell you there's no such thing as utopian. There's no such thing as 100% employment. And through the ages, Mesopotamia, Egypt, the bag ladies of the Industrial Revolution, there has always been what economics professors call the fringe. The 1%, 1.5% that don't join society. Now, where my question's going for the people of the region of Durham, you claim there are 227 chronically homeless in Ajax tonight. I know Ajax. I bet the title on my house. There's not 227 people sleeping on the street right now. But where I'm going with this is the term vulnerable, the tens of millions of dollars that go after this dark rabbit hole. When you say 227, that represents 1/100th of 1% of 145,000 people who live in Ajax. So I'll ask you, when I hear the term vulnerable from Professor Michelle Dubé on CFTO News, the most vulnerable, how many children in Ajax are living with Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, Rett syndrome, Tourette syndrome? How many single mothers in Ajax right now are working 2 jobs with a deadbeat father trying to put food on the table? How many of us glorious 60s that have worked 40 years of our life, paid taxes, and are waiting 6 months for a knee or a hip replacement? So we're spending millions of dollars on 227 people that represent 1/100th. So how many Down syndrome children are living in Ajax right now? Does anybody know up there? How many severely autistic children? How many children battling cancer? Put that in your pipe and smoke it. I'm sorry, but I have a different attitude.
Sorry, sir. I appreciate the question, but I'm not sure that we have. It's a statement. We don't have an answer for that right now.
Good evening, everybody. Excuse me. Good evening, everybody. I would just like to just make a statement, and then I do have a question for the community members here. So in response to individuals who are already in the plaza at downtown Harwood, somebody passed away in the bushes in front of our building. And in response to the increased number of people coming to access services, services were provided. This was already in our community prior to the explosion of COVID. And I've had the privilege to travel to conferences that are speaking about communities that are experiencing this across Canada, across the globe. This is not unique to Ajax. I do want to just say that within our spaces, we have 40 to 49 people just this week alone, from Sunday to last night. Last night we had 49 people in our Ajax hub and 16 at Town Hall. Before, we had 20, which is capacity at Town Hall. The gentleman said that there's not 200 and something people in Ajax. There are 47 in the shelter, with another close to 60 something that are supported through our warming centers just here in Ajax. And those are the people that we see every single night and every single day. That's pretty close to the number that you said. And there are people who don't have space in Ajax because capacity, we have to have 6 people to support to support the number of people that are coming into our hub. So they go to other warming centers, as was said, in the nighttime to keep warm. I do want to just highlight that these people are in Ajax. Because you don't see them every day, it's because of supports and services that are giving them a place to be within the day, that there are not more people on your doorsteps, that there are not more people in the community. And I just want to ask, there is a lot of frustration, and I can understand that. Our teams deal with it. We're not ignorant to the fact that it's a very hard work and that people are at their lowest points. And when they're at their lowest points, including myself, I don't have the best attitude when I'm not in a good mood. I don't have the best attitude when I'm hungry or when I can't shower or when I can't sleep well. So I do want to ask the community, we have pleaded, we have asked, please come and speak to us. Let's talk together. We want to hear from you. We want to be able to make a difference and to know what's going on. And none of you have come to us. So my question is...
So, okay.
My
Sorry.
question is...
Sorry.
My question is...
Okay, sorry. I'm just to regain a little bit of control of the room. I appreciate where you're coming from.
When I say none of you, I'm saying specifically the business owners that
No. I just want to make sure that we...
Okay, so my name is Marla, and I work for Doors of Compassion. I am the executive director for the Doors of Compassion. I have given out my card at other community members like this, and I have not received a proper email, a proper phone call. I've had people come into our office yelling and screaming, worse than patrons have, at our receptionist and at our pastor CEO, but I have not had a respectable conversation or people come. And when emails come with onslaughts or people are harassing my team,
So,
there's not
Marla,
that
I
support.
do just want to
So my
regain a little
question
bit.
is-
Okay,
My question
thank you.
is the community willing to come together to actually sit and have a constructive conversation to provide better solutions for the ongoing crisis that is happening in our communities?
So to be clear, just to before we go on to additional questions, to answer the question from the panel, just so that there's not kind of crosstalk in the audience, which I think can happen after we've had a chance to conclude the program, should there be a desire to have that kind of a facilitated conversation between the Doors of Compassion and CFOC and the business owners or others in the neighborhood, the town is always happy to facilitate that conversation. So I do see a couple of more hands.
I apologize, this question is very similar to one that was mentioned earlier, but are there... Oh, no, he's got the mic there. I apologize for the similarity to a previous question. I was wondering, are there any plans to build more community or social housing in Durham? And if not, is there somebody I can talk to about building those plans or an initiative on how to make that process start?
Sure, and to answer the question, the answer is yes, and if you'd like to chat with us after, we'll connect you to give you the information. Oh, sorry, just to repeat the question was, are there plans to build any affordable, supportive, or transitional housing in Durham region? And if that work is undergoing, can she be connected?
Okay, so I think there's some in the corner over here. The lady next to the wall, go ahead.
But I do have firsthand experience from all angles. University educated, I had a home in Whitby, I had a great life. I didn't know anything about the homeless situation. I became homeless, a chronic homeless person, as you would call it. I just got out of it. It's been going on 2 years. I've been in Toronto, I've been living in my car with my dog. I've been to 27, I've been to the hub. I've been a lot of places. And so I've been able to see it from different angles. And luckily, my university degree deals with this community, this population, forensic psychology. So I've seen the good and the bad. And I really do believe what Marla is saying is that we need to come together, but it can't just be the people who are on the outside looking in. You have to have people who've been there, who get it, and who are there. I just came from DARS. like I still have to go get my meals. So my question is, when can we get that together, like ASAP?
So I think the question I'll answer on behalf of the panel is that this is kind of a first step. It's something that the town has continued to commit to facilitating these conversations with the community. It's something that, you know, we recognize is something the community cares about and that we need to care about. And so happy to bring all the parties together to have that conversation. Well, we are 15 minutes over the allotted time for the entire event, and we have 2 guest speakers left. So, yeah. I think so. So maybe what we'll do is in the interest of time and in respecting the guest speaker's time, we'll have them come up and speak. And then any perhaps follow-up questions we can either do one-on-one, staff will hang around and have those conversations. And we're happy to provide answers. And perhaps let's go with that. So without further ado, what I'll do is I'll invite Adam up to the podium here to provide some remarks.
Okay, so my name's Adam. I was invited to speak as a person with lived experience, and just to kind of paint a bit of a picture, or to enlighten those who have never experienced it, or, you know, I love that young lady shared, and now she's in university getting a psychology degree, so look at you go. Like, that's amazing, right? Like, that touches me. So for myself, similar, I grew up in a good home, in a community not too far from here. You know, went to school, played sports, had both parents, had this amazing life. Once in high school, I began to experiment with alcohol and drugs. And I'm sure there's many of you in this room today that could say the same thing, right? We were young, we were experimenting, we were trying things out. As many young men did, I set out to what is the meaning of life? Set out to conquer the world. I was young, full of ambition, goals, right? I ended up getting great jobs. I was very hardworking, intelligent. I had a job where I traveled around the world and I made lots of money. At the age of 25, I bought my first house and I had 2 cars. I was doing amazing. Everything in the world, everything I thought from an outside looking in would make me happy, would make me fulfilled. But I felt empty inside. I continued to use alcohol and drugs to try to fill this void. Well, you could imagine what began to happen as the alcohol and drug use ramped up. Slowly but surely, I began to miss work. I began to miss payments. I stopped paying the bills. I began to isolate from my family. The guilt and shame started to take over. I ended up in such a dire straits that I had no choice. I cried out for help. My first time, I was working for a union at the time. The union sent me to a 30-day treatment program, right? Here we go. I went to that 30-day treatment program. I did counseling. I did therapy. I went to the gym. I did all these things only to come out and still feel that same emptiness. Something was missing. Something that I didn't know what it was. I started to use drugs and alcohol again, and this time it got worse. I lost the house, lost the cars, lost the jobs, and I was on the street. But I didn't go down without a fight. You know, I had grown up watching Rocky and Rudy. I thought the epitome of the human will. I will dig my heels in and I will overcome any obstacle like I'd done so many other times in my life. To no avail. I continued to use drugs. I couldn't stop. They consumed every bit of my being. I cried out for help again, and I ended up in a 6-month rehab. Cognitive behavioral therapy, going to the gym, trying all these different things, psychiatry, counseling. I would get clean and healthy, came out, and went back. Went back again. It was the only community I'd know. It was all my friends. It was everything. And this time what happened was I felt defeated. You know, I thought there's a problem with me. There's something wrong with me. I tried all these solutions that everybody had suggested to no avail. I think there's something wrong with me. I began to hate myself. You know, like, I know we see, but yeah, I started to hate myself. I would start to self-sabotage. I was convinced that I didn't deserve a better life because of the life I was living. I would just shoot myself in the foot every opportunity I got to try and get out. I got so bad as I accepted the fate that I would be a homeless intravenous drug addict for the rest of my life. I accepted it. I thought that's it. In the Bible it says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And that's the problem with these thoughts. When they consumed me and I began to become that person that I thought about. I thought that's it. Life got extremely dark at that point. You know, when you lose that desire to live, when you lose your ability to function, you've isolated from all the supports, from the people that love you, and life gets dark quick. You end up surrounded with other people in the similar situation. Life got really dark. I lived in constant fear, filled with anxiety. I truly believe it's evil, you know? But God began to put people in my path. People filled with love and light and compassion. I would look into their eyes and I would see this light in them and I would think, I want what they got. What is it? And they would tell me. The last one, well, they told me that there was a better way to live. The last one being my older sister. My older sister took me in. She helped me apply to treatments. She took me to doctor's appointments, and she dropped me off at detox. I entered a faith-based rehab, and I had the most amazing experience of my life. I had an encounter with our Lord and Savior. I wasn't just a change in my life, I was born again. A new life, a new energy, a power, eternal life. His life-giving spirit entered my body. I became a well, transformed from the inside out. I left that facility running. I was on a mission to tell everybody. I wanted everybody who was struggling in that darkness to know there's a better way. Wake up, there's a better way. My friends, my family, they're dying out here. Wake up. I hit the streets, and I would talk to anybody who would listen. I volunteered. I co-founded a recovery house that's still up and running. And now... And now I have the privilege of working at Doors of Compassion as a peer support. I live a life now better than I could have ever imagined, one I'd never dreamed of. I have the opportunity to come alongside of these individuals and encourage them and speak life and tell them that there's a better way. A big part of my spiritual awakening is now looking back and thanking God for everything, the trials included. The fire that tried to kill me is the same fire that refined me. So now that I tell you a bit of my story, and now that you've heard it, you be the judge. Was homelessness a consequence of my actions? Did I make those decisions? Did I choose to use drugs? Yes. Yes, by all means. I'll be the first to admit it. But that's why the grace and the compassion hit so deep. I didn't deserve it. I don't deserve to be here today. My ability to understand the depth of God's grace is in recognition of how much I fall short. So we can say about my life, I can tell you that I'll be the first to admit and take accountability for my actions. But what about the individuals I come alongside of? I don't want to mention names, but what about the young lady whose mom sold her into prostitution as a child? Or the countless victims fleeing abusive situations. The young man whose parents died when he was just a child and ended up on the street at a young age. The ones whose parents were addicts and introduced them to drugs. I've met children out there, they didn't even have a chance. They don't even know. Do they deserve it? Do they deserve the consequences of their actions? I encountered this heavily the other day. There's a young man I support, and I take guys to recovery groups. You know, I'm in the shelters. I'm with them on the street, and then with the housed individuals, and try to go upstream in the community as well to try and get individuals before they end up there, right? So I take guys to recovery groups. I just anywhere I can do to help. And one of the young men, we just left this recovery group. And the recovery group was based on like your thoughts and how they control and your actions and all these things, you know. Only for us to leave there and him light up a smoke and start swearing and everything. And I said, man, do you want a better life? Do you want a better life? And you know what he said to me? I've never known one. You know, like, how much do we take that for granted? I was blessed with that childhood. I always knew there was a different way. Some people don't. They don't. I say all that just to shine some light on the issue at hand. It's a problem that affects us all. I love how the individuals that spoke tonight, everybody kind of seems like they want to come together. They want to come together. So to me, or based on my brief description here, you could see homelessness looks like individuals that are facing life-altering challenges. The same sun that hardens the clay melts wax. Some will use these encounters, these challenges, to become softer, compassionate, empathetic, loving, motivated to help others. Some will become hardened. As we know, some people go through traumatic experiences and they decide, that's it, I don't trust anybody, right? That's life. That's life. We're all going to face trials and obstacles, right? Now we as a community are faced with the same question. We are facing a challenge together that's affecting us all. Are we going to allow this challenge to be an opportunity for us to show compassion and love? An opportunity for us to demonstrate that in life we will face challenges, but we can respond in love and grace? Or will we allow it to harden us? You know, I think of the statistics, I think of the traditional methods. There's so many different approaches. And I, in writing my notes here, I was reminded of William Booth. William Booth started the Salvation Army. William Booth, he was, you know, as he got older, he was sending out the armies of people. And at one point they wrote to him and they said, we don't understand this community. They're not responding. You know, we're trying everything. And do you know what he wrote back? Try tears. Try tears. This issue is something that hits so close to home for me. I've lost my little sister. I've lost my best friends. I've lost countless others. And most of my coworkers and people that work in this industry are in the same boat. We're not here for the money. I'll be the first to tell you that. But we try to use it as motivation. And I'm working daily at helping others. This is a full-time job for me. And we are making a difference. You know, you hear the horror stories. We are making. I dropped 2 guys off at Detox yesterday. And I could go into statistics forever of the amount of people that we've helped. Because our organization is ground zero and individuals come to us, we have access to them. Yes, there is those horror stories. We'll be the first to admit. And as Marla said, we deal with that. It's not easy. We deal with that. But there is those stories of people that come in seeking help, that get the help they need, and we're able to assist them in turning their lives around. And to the gentleman with the fringe comment, I think, who determines the value of a human life? I was once one on the fringe, and I can tell you I've turned my life around and I've come back to help countless others. And as each of those guys I drop off to detox, each one I help get into rehab. When they say, "What could I ever do to repay you?" You know what I say? You help the next guy. You pay it forward. And that's how we combat this issue. We come together, each life transforming lives, impacting communities. Each life that we help transform has a ripple effect. It impacts the community. And now I'll end on that note. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that. And just in between, just before Adam started speaking, I do want to acknowledge that the Mayor Collier arrived from his other speaking engagement and is here in the back. And now I'd like to introduce. Oh, you can't hear me. Okay, I would like to introduce Mayor Collier at the back, who has arrived a few moments ago. So thank you, and I'll hand this over to Daniel.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see everybody in such a wonderful mood. I'll speak up, but I am glad that some people look the way they do, and the homeless people, God bless them all. People are all of a sudden telling me to speak up. I am a person that likes to fly off the handle and go amazingly and say a bunch of things that just I'm inspired and I can speak from the heart very easily. But I have something very important to talk about today, and I'm going to do it in as quick a period of time as I can. 198,000 hours. That's how many hours of lived experience as a homeless man I have. Living on the fringe from coast to coast. I wasn't just a chronically homeless man. I was a transient chronic homeless man. It's one of the most severe forms of homelessness that they talk about. So when I'm coming to you with this, I'm coming to you with an ideal solution. An ideal solution. It was like starting over from ground zero. I never thought I'd end up like this. Living with a suitcase permanently packed and traumatic is traumatic in itself. You're always faced with the outdoors and always faced with walking and walking. These are not statistics, these are realities. They reflect the confusion, denial, fear, and stigma experienced when someone suddenly finds themselves without stable housing. Survival, not living. Finding yourself without a place to call home becomes survival rather than living. Basic needs like sleep, food, and hygiene become a daily struggle. Exhaustion is constant. Noise, light, and harsh weather make it rest nearly impossible. And safety often takes priority over sleeping. People spend their days walking between services for food, hygiene, and medical care, often while undernourished and physically drained. Exposure to the elements leads to an illness, pain, and ongoing stress. Trying to exit homelessness becomes a full-time job. Navigating complex systems for welfare, housing, and health care, what may look like a lack of motivation often is burnout from trauma and sheer exhaustion. The experience of becoming invisible. Many describe the feeling of feeling invisible, like a lesser being, due to the shame and judgment. They are physically present, yet treated as they no longer exist. When people pass someone experiencing homelessness, a psychological defense mechanism often occurs: dehumanization. First, people avert their gaze to avoid the moral discomfort. To a person on the street, this feels like becoming a ghost. Second, the society begins to seeing an object or a problem rather than a human being with a history, emotions, and identity. The impact of stigma. Public stigma leads to isolation, fear, and fear of public spaces. Institutional stigma can make, I'm actually shaking. Institutional stigma can make people feel like a number instead of a human. Self-stigma causes loss of hope and self-worth. A powerful factor behind this is a just world hypothesis. I heard this today. A just world hypothesis the belief that people get what they deserve. This leads to victim blaming, assuming homelessness is due to laziness or bad choices rather than systemic failure. This belief acts as a psychological buffer. If homelessness is someone else's fault, then we feel safe believing it cannot happen to us. But it can, and it does. The belief acts as a psychological buffer. Part two. I read an article in my research for this, and this, I'll tell you what, when I saw this, I almost split a gene. I almost got really angry, all right? I split an atom, let me put it that way. It's called Canadian Gangrene. It was in the Maclean's magazine in 2005 by John Ralston Saul. In it, Saul used the gangrene metaphor to describe homelessness as a rotting, neglected social affliction that threatened health of the entire nation if left unaddressed. Compassion fatigue. When society repeatedly is exposed to the suffering it feels unable to fix, compassion fatigue develops. People emotionally shield themselves. They look away. They tune out. Not out of cruelty, but to preserve their own emotional comfort. How media frames and shapes perception. Homelessness is often framed through the bias and assumptions. Narratives frequently emphasize addiction, mental illness, and poor work ethic. Structural causes, lack of affordable housing, and inadequate social assistance are often erased. Visual framing can emphasize the isolation, showing people sleeping alone, avoiding eye contact, reinforcing otherness. Coverage spikes during crisis, but rarely provides consistent policy-focused analysis. This framing shapes how society sees homelessness, not as a symptomatic issue, but as an individual failure. So, my question is, who is a homeless person? Is a homeless person a woman with her children fleeing abuse? Is a homeless person with an addiction? Is a homeless person with mental illness or challenges? No. A homeless person is an individual with thoughts that matter, feelings that matter and need expression, and the ability to act and do with their own agency, given the opportunity. So, if someone, all right, I'll stop there. There's another question I want to ask, and this is like why we're all here today. But what about my business, and what about my property? We have the trash, we have the people sleeping. This gentleman's story over here. The other day I was walking, I'm not going to get too far off track. The other day I was walking going to work, and I walked into a Tim Hortons, and I won't say where it was, but it was not too far away. And I saw a person standing out by the drive-thru with a Tim Hortons cup in her hand. It was early in the morning, it was a cold morning, and she was young. Young to me, because she was in her 30s, right? But she was young, and she was standing there shivering, and she walked inside, she got a little bit warm, and then she went back outside again. I saw another guy coming in, and he was shuffling his feet. He couldn't lift his feet. You know why he couldn't lift his feet? He had trench foot. And I just looked at him, and I said, oh, my goodness, your trench foot looks bad. And I could just tell by his shuffle. I've been there, all right? And then I saw an older lady come into the Tim Hortons, and she was dragging all her stuff with her. And she walked, and she looked around. This is not new to me, but she looked around, and she said, and went and sat down in the corner. So my whole reason for this today is to come up with, first of all, let me talk about who we can call. There's primary care outreach, there's mental health outreach, there's street outreach, and there's doors of compassion. Those are in these areas, and they've all been talked about, so I'm not going to belabor the point. Now I'm going to get to the ideal solution. And an ideal is an idea wrapped around these 4 principles. If we take this idea and we wrap it around the 4 principles that I'm going to talk about in 2.5 minutes or 35 seconds or something like that, then you'll have the ability to understand what my thought is. So the ideal, I want to conclude with this. We'll start with learning the person, bridge the empathy gap, move from us versus them to we are the community. View the person not as a nuisance, but as a neighbor in crisis. I once spoke to a person suffering, I won't go into that, over observing strengths, all right? This is my thing lately, observing the strengths, seeing that the homeless person, not as a collective group, but as individuals with thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And then I want to talk about how we can validate the community. We can validate the community by coming together in a co-production model. And with the, yeah, there's my thing, eh? With the co-production model, we can work our way through some issues. And how do we empower? I lost myself. I'll get there shortly. All right. Oh, there we are, right where I was supposed to be. All right, so I talked about learning the other person, observing the person's strengths, what they can do rather than what they can do, validating this process through the co-production model, and here's how we empower the community with the co-production model and set in motion something that's already in the works. The empowering group would be made up of lived experience, peers, guiding peers, a business champion modeling compassionate commerce, and outreach navigators bringing the street to and the storefront, a policy advocate for cutting through the red tape, and bridge builders to shift the perception from threat to a neighbor in transition. So my final thought, an ideal is not just an idea, it is a value we choose to live up to. If we build solutions grounded in learning, observing, validating, and empowering, we'll make the changes. So in conclusion, my final, I'm like the preacher. Have you ever heard a preacher in church? He says one more text, and he goes 10 more texts. All right. So, all right, y'all get the point, right? Did I shut myself off?
I got it.
Okay, help me. All right. See, now I'm back to my regular self. The GAP committee is working on something, and we've been working on it for a few months. And on March 24th at the Ajax Public Library in the Rotary Room, between 11 and 1, we are holding a workshop called Together We Can and Together We Will. And the whole idea is built around dealing with this BIA situation and property owners. We are going to be coming around starting March 3rd with a survey and to ask questions about your personal experience and gather that as information and stuff that we can use and bring to the table. And we're also going to be going out directly to the community itself and asking them basically the same questions. And what we want to try and do is build a bridge to fill the gap between the frustration of business owners and property owners and find solutions for the homeless people, so we're not seeing as us and them, but we are seeing community members who are our neighbors in the city of Ajax. Thank you. That's hilarious. Thanks, Scott. You made it easy for me.
That's the way I treat my abusers, day over day.
So thank you all for coming tonight. I do want to share with everybody that this is not the last time we'll come together. It's not the last time the town will facilitate a conversation like this. When you arrived tonight, there were some iPads that you could fill out to provide us with your information. That's so that we can keep you up to date on future initiatives like this and others that we do related to community well-being. I do want to remind everybody that there is some food at the back. Please help yourself on the way out. And the last piece around this is that there is a... Yes. Yes, so there is an information here for a sponsorship package if anybody wants to participate in the coldest night of the year, which is a fundraising walk that happens that CFOC is partnering on. And I'd also like to just let everybody know that this is something that we appreciate everybody taking the time to do tonight, and we know that this is a complex issue. This is not the last that we'll speak together, and I want to thank you all for taking the time tonight.